So now we'll start adding annotations and dimensioning to our drawing, and I will begin this module with the dimensioning tools. So you can start dimensioning from the annotation panel of Home tab, and when you click on this drop down, you'll see lots of tools which are available for dimensioning. Also, we have this dimension tool which can be used for creating dimensions. Apart from that, we can also make dimensioning and other annotations from this annotate tab. So when you go to the annotate tab, you'll see many different panels like text, dimensions, center lines, leader lines, tables, markup, annotations. Now these are different panels which can be used for adding different kind of annotations. And here we have the dimensioning panel which we will use for this lesson. So I'll use this simple drawing and we'll add many dimensions to this drawing using the default ISO 25 dimension style, which can be seen here. We have this ISO 25 dimension style. We'll learn more about dimension style later on in this module, but first we'll start with this dimension style and we'll add some of the dimensions. So let's go to this drop down. I'll click here and you'll see lots of tools which are available for dimensioning. So I'll start with the linear dimension. So this linear option can be used to add horizontal or vertical dimensions. So let's click on this point and let's click on this point, and now click on the third point to place the dimension, and here we have it. So the dimension has been placed. So obviously for placing the linear dimension you need three inputs: the first point, second point, and the place where you'll put your dimension. There is also an alternate method of using this tool. So I'll select the same command and now directly I'll press enter. Now the point selection cursor will change into this big box, and now instead of selecting the starting and end point, you can simply click on the line and it will pick the dimension. Now you only need to click at a point to place the dimension. So you can use any of these methods. Now I told you that this linear dimension can be used to create only horizontal and vertical dimensions. So let's select it and let's try to add the dimensioning on the slant line. So I'll press enter, click on this slant line, and now you'll notice that we can make horizontal dimension if I move my cursor here, and we can make a vertical dimension if I move my cursor to this vertical direction. So you can choose any of these methods, but in order to make a dimension which is parallel to this slant line, you need to select the second option. So I'll press escape, and now I'll go to the same drop down and select this aligned option. Now using this aligned option, you can create that aligned dimension. So click at the first point, second point, and the point where you want to put the dimension, and here we have this aligned dimension. In this case also you can directly press enter and select the line for creating the dimension. Now let's look at the other option. So I'll go to this drop down, select the angular. So obviously using this tool you can add angles to lines or arcs. So I'll click on this first line, the second line, and now here we have the angle. Now this angle will be placed at the point where you click. So in this case, if I click here, the angle in between these two lines at this side will be created. If I move it to this side, the angle will be created here, even to this side or even to this side. So you can decide the side where you want to put this angle. So I'll click here, and now I'll repeat the angle tool, but this time instead of selecting two lines, I'll select an arc. So click on this arc, and now we have this included angle for an arc. So you can use this tool to create an angle for an arc also. So let's erase this angle for the arc, and now I'll go to the next tool. So click on the drop down, select this arc length. So this arc length is simply the length of arc. So I'll click on this arc and place it at a point. So this is simply the arc length from this point to this point. It's not the radius, it's not even diameter of this arc. It's the arc length along the circumference of this arc. Let's go to the next tool, which is radius. So obviously using radius tool, you can create radius for the geometries which can have radius. For example, circle or arc. So I'll click on this circle, and here we have the radius. Now you can select the same tool, click on the arc, and it will also have radius like this, so you can create it. Similarly, you can select this diameter option, and in this case, instead of this R, a phi sign will be added. So I'll click on the circle, and here we have it, the diameter. Now in this case, you can see that this phi sign which indicates the diameter will be added. If you press enter to repeat the command and select the arc, this time we have the diameter for this arc with the diameter sign. Now we have quite a crowded drawing, so I'll remove some of these dimensions to free some space here. And now let's look at other options. So I'll click on this drop down again, and here we have this jogged dimension. So this jogged dimension can be used to add radius to different geometries like circle or arc, and it will be added along with a jogged line. So let's select this arc for instance, and now I'll specify the center location. The center location of this arc is here. So click somewhere over here. It should not necessarily be on the center. I'll simply click here, and now we have this jog line. If you look at closely, you'll find that. So click at the first point to place the first jog line and the second point, and here we have this jog line. So these jog lines are generally used where the curvature of arc is very large and the center of that arc falls outside the current drawing area. For those cases, you can use this jogged line. For now, I'll simply erase it. And now let's look at the last option, which is ordinate. So I'll click on this drop down, and here we have this ordinate option. So using this ordinate option, you can enter X or Y coordinates of any point. So I'll select this rightmost point, the bottom right point. And now in order to add the X or Y coordinate value, simply click here and now move your cursor. So as you can see that this line is moving along the X axis and it's completely horizontal. That means this will be the axis of Y. Now click here. Now click on this point again, but this time I am moving it in downward direction, and now it's following the point along the vertical axis, and that is the X coordinate. So it might be a little bit confusing to you at this point, but we'll use another example later on in this module to make this ordinate dimensioning more clear. For now, you can assume that this is the Y coordinate value and this is the X coordinate value. So up to this point, we have seen that all of these dimensions are made on the default layer, which was currently active. And you can see that in this list also, the drop down, it shows use current for the layer. So whatever the current layer is, that will be used for all of these dimensions, but you can select your own layer as well for the dimensions. So I'll click on this drop down, and now I'll select some other layer. So in this case, let's select this layer 1. And now the dimensions will be made on that layer. So I'll go to this drop down once again, and I'll select radius. Now click here and make a radius, and you can see that it's now made on layer 1, and the properties of layer 1 are also inherited here. Similarly, you can switch to any other layer, and when you make the dimension, let's select diameter in this case, the dimension will be made on that layer. Even now, the layer will not change. When you go to Home tab, you'll find that still we have this layer 0 as the currently active layer, but still the dimensions will be made on the layer which we select. You can even select the dimensioning from this annotation panel. So even if you select it from here, the dimensions will be added on the layer which you assigned on this Annotate tab dimensions panel. So since we have assigned the layer 2, the dimension will be made on layer 2 irrespective of the current layer. So that was all about creating simple and basic dimensions in AutoCAD.